Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and welcome to episode 32 of the Breaking Point podcast. We're back again. Champs is over. It's phenomenal scenes. EasyMac won the thing. He's in the call with us. It's absolutely fantastic stuff. No better time to be alive in the COD scene than right now with Rostermania kicking off. We're going to talk through Champs today. We're going to talk through our expectations and predictions for what might happen in Rostermania, but things are changing very rapidly, I'm sure, behind the scenes. Gents, how are we doing? EasyMac, first of all, I'll throw it to you. I said just before we went live, as we are live right now on Twitch, if you guys want to check us out next week, we'll be here. But I said just before we went live, have you, well, finally shook off the hangover from Sunday night? I'm sure it was a fun one.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Made it home last night, so I'm just here relaxing, finally enjoying the off season, finally having like an off week. So yeah, I'm just happy we did what we went there to do and didn't have really any bumps in the road.
Yeah,
What's good,
awesome.
Lion?
It was a great event. I'm meant to be at work in 10 minutes, but instead we're here talking COD. So, in for a good
Well,
couple
let's
hours.
tell the story. Tell, like, because New Zealand's in, like, it's gone
Oh,
crazy right now.
yeah. So when I work, I'm essentially an essential worker. But we're in level 4 right now because of new COVID cases. It's the first time in like shit 14 months that we've had to actually have a lockdown. And yeah, things are a little bit crazy at the moment. And I texted work, see if I'm working, and I got no response. So shit's really organized.
Come
But
on.
I'm here. I'm here right now.
So is it. Yeah, they knew that the Breaking Point podcast was on. They're like, look, Lion, it's okay.
Yeah,
Just have a good time. You gotta, the people are here. The show must go on. So
exactly.
fantastic stuff. Thanks to all those who may be listening on all other platforms, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. Genuinely, we've really appreciated your support this entire season. And now we're moving into the off season where things are going to get probably even more entertaining. But well, first of all, we've got a cracking event to discuss. Stage 5 Major was phenomenal. Champs also definitely did not fail to deliver. I was really hoping that especially the big series down to the wire, when a lot of people watching were going to deliver, as indeed they did. Any series with Toronto in, it's just a banger, it seems. So, well, we're going to dive into it. First of all, Champs, I mean, usually we throw in a couple of topics before then, but like, there's nothing really else to discuss than the manners that was Champs. So, day one, New York come in. I mean, I don't know if it was first game, second game of the day or something. And our first game of the day was Dallas beating Rokkr, which was interesting enough in itself. I think we can kind of go through it day by day and then run through what we think could happen to some of the teams that got eliminated at each particular point. But day one was interesting. I mean, we did that kind of stream with Midnight thinking New York beating OpTic, especially game one, was a decent bet. And that's exactly what happens. They go on to win the series in a pretty interesting game 5. It was like OpTic just didn't quite seem to be at the races in this New York series, and especially interesting because New York went on for the rest of the weekend. It didn't exactly look great, so it was just interesting to see OpTic kind of lose this one. And again, it was the search and destroy that was really spelt their downfall in this series, and why we were kind of discussing last time the difficulties that they would have of making any sort of run through what would eventually be a lowest bracket run, more than likely, just because you got to win some game 5s if you want to win champs, more than likely, even though you guys didn't have to. But yeah, it's just Atlanta FaZe. So yeah, search and destroy was pretty tragic. They did bounce back against Florida, again losing a search and destroy pretty comfortably, but one of the respawns, if it had gone game 5, like it's tough to put your money on them. I was really impressed by Dallas day one, just world starring Rokkr. Did that was an incredibly quick speedrun series. I thought the Rokkr, like my kind of hot take was they'd come top 8. Didn't happen in the end. They take down Thieves in a game 5, and Slasher was not the happiest man, but we can get to that in a second. Austin, thoughts on day one? Like every single day was massively important weekend.
I'm pretty sure I was 4 for 4 on the predictions for that actually for that
I may have
day
been,
one
yeah, I'll give it to you.
because New York was actually doing pretty well in scrims apparently. The 2 weeks before. We obviously didn't scrim either one of them because we were gonna play one of them in the next round, but I was hearing they looked really good with Clay back on the team, so it was like they regained that form. I really thought New York was gonna come out and kind of shock Chicago there. The one big surprise I think I had was actually the Dallas Minnesota. I did think that the way that Minnesota won that tournament, I really thought they were gonna make a splash and like at least bring that to map 5. Um, it's not that they didn't come in prepared. It's just Dallas just looked really hot, and they just kind of just once they won that map 1, they just kept rolling it over. So That was the only real big surprise I had. I definitely thought that one was going to be like a map 5, like grueler of a series where teams were grinding it out. But they definitely bounced back against LA, and that's when they started making their run. So they bounced back and kept it going. What about you, Lion?
I think just touching on the OpTic New York series, I wasn't really that surprised that New York won, just because it's Clay, and he always seems to bring it against OpTic like every year, and to come back in that fashion was pretty dope. But OpTic in game fives is just such a terrible combination. Like they'll win the game 2 SND pretty comfortably, and then when it comes to game 5, it's just like everything falls apart. And do you guys think that they jinx themselves, or they get a little bit more pressure under those game 5s, or what? Because it seemed to be a trend all year.
There's just so many mistakes. It's actually just outrageous. Like I don't really know what it is, but there's so many times where I just think it's discipline personally. Like we can talk about this and we discuss maybe what they should do in Rostermania, but I just think that to the credit of Crimsix, I think they miss a figure like that on the team. I think they miss a guy who is not going to take any bullshit in terms of how people are playing the game in practice and in actual matches. And there's so many times where they'll make a stupid play or Dashy will like ego chow on his own and die and just throw away winnable rounds. The best teams don't throw away winnable rounds. There was a crazy stat the Random and Stats pointed out where Toronto, Dallas, and FaZe going into Sunday had not lost a single round where they got first blood. 4 versus 3, they closed out every single time. The same stuff for OpTic was 53%. They get first blood and barely win over half the rounds. Like, that's an outrageous stat. Shows, I mean, obviously stats don't tell the entire story, but shows clearly there's a lot of mistakes being made. And it's the search and destroy that's going to cost you against the best team. So I don't understand what exactly it is, but like the strats that they bring to the table seem at times so I don't know, so like almost day one. I remember people were pointing out what they were doing on Moscow. They just slammed it into a first round work. People saying usually you need to play around mid and like kind of bait them out and throw in an A hit in the middle of the game. Stuff like that was kind of surprising. And still, like even when things kind of were going their way, it felt like they'd always put themselves in advantageous situations and then just throw it away with some sort of misplay, which is going to cost you. And it's just stuff like that that I don't know if like Crimsix isn't going back to that team, right? But just a player that has the discipline and the guy like Crimsix that, yeah, as I say, isn't going to take any BS and is actually going to fix some of these errors. It doesn't seem like they quite have that, and I'm not sure a single coaching staff in Sender is helping them accomplish that. So I think it might be a mix of the lack of analysts and coaching staff that they have, but also the kind of maybe personalities on the team. I don't really know. It's tough to say, but kind of unacceptable. Boys dropping massive sub bombs in the chat as well. Certainly appreciate it.
Thank you, mate. Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that one more time. It's just that people have been talking about OpTic's lack of analyst and like not having that figure in the team that can bring them all together and like essentially discipline the squad to get on the same page with certain game modes, especially like who do you think would be the ideal player to come into that squad to be able to actually help them become a top 3, top 2 team?
OpTic right now?
Yeah.
It's a tough question. I mean, obviously, it depends what change you want to make. Like, I think you can, obviously, yeah, we can talk about the Toronto series in a second on the second day, but a very similar thing happened there, right, where they lose search and they end up losing in a respawn on the raid, and like that was crazy because Skunk was phenomenal this weekend. By the way, like the first couple of series they played, he was like dropping 1.2s. Like obviously, people can say, "Oh, stats," but you still lose. But just watching him play, like I think he played great, and even the final map against Toronto when he went on the 10 spree and none of his team could get kills in the front. Like I don't really could expect Scump to do there. He's killing everyone in the back, and then no one can break the front of the hill. Kind of tough, but of course, like, the first question is like, if you want to make a change, which to me I think is something you probably have to do because fact of the matter is right now, this is your chance to make a change because the contracts are up, the 1+1s. Like, this is when the majority of the free agents are going to be on the market. So if you want to make a move, now's the best time, especially because FaZe are looking unbelievable. And if you're every team in the league right now has to be thinking, okay, how can we beat FaZe? OpTic had 6 chances this year to win an event, didn't even make a grand finals. So it's like, I just can't see how that squad of 4 is going to work in another title. You can throw as many analysts as you like at that team. I'm just not sure it's going to happen. So then you've got to ask, what do you do? Can Scump and Envoy work as an SMG duo? I think at times they showed it, but I also think at times that it felt like they lacked that kind of aggro sub. You look at the best teams in the game. You've got Abezy on FaZe. You've got CleanX and Ultra. You've got Staddy on Minnesota Rokkr. You've got like kind of Vivid, I guess, on
OpTic.
Dallas Empire.
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah,
Shotzi. I
you're
mean,
right.
yeah, they kind of both do it, but like you've got a player like that and all of those other top teams, and New York, I guess, Asim Hydra kind of, seems that kind of guy as well. They don't really have that on OpTic, so it's like, can Envoy do that? I don't necessarily know if that plays into his role. I think maybe his playstyle is better suited to 5v5. So, do the SMG duo work? I don't know, maybe. And if you don't change out the SMG duo, then it's like, all right, we've got to switch out one of the ARs. Formal, I think, brings a lot to their team outside and inside the game in terms of comms. Obviously, statistically, wasn't as good as Dashy this year. So I think massive questions for that organization, what you do. Maybe you decide to switch out Formal for a guy like, if Clayster's there, I'd almost like to see a change where this would be crazy, but you get like Clayster and Hydra, even though Hydra doesn't work, but Clayster and like some aggro sub, and then Scump and Dashy maybe. I don't really know. I think Clayster and Dashy teaming together, that'd be funny, wouldn't it? After all the drama. I don't think that would happen. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, guys. Go on, Austin.
What do you reckon, Austin?
So I think one of their problems is like their routine going from practice to matches, because they're actually a really good practice team. And I think once they get into the matches, they're not making the same plays and speaking the same way that they are in practice, and that's throwing them off because now they're in a different situation that they didn't practice for. And I think that's one of their major issues. Just because like you see them in practice and they're frying, and then you see them in the games, and it's like they're making a lot of like micro errors on the map. And even though they look prepared, like on the macro level, on the micro, they're making all these errors that just ball up together. One of the things I keep seeing too is like you got to be coachable, as well, right? Like, I actually think Troy's a really good coach. I think he does a lot for the team, but how much does the team drink that in, right? Like, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it. So, if the team, especially after the last 4 years, they've won 2 tournaments in 4 years, and one of them was a homestand. So,
Three, two homestand.
uh, they won 2 homestands. Okay, so they won 3 in 4 years, and 2 of them were homestands, with only 8 teams. So if you are not coachable after that long of a stint where you're not finding success, I think that's a major issue, right? If that's actually the problem, is that they're not coachable, what do you want to win? Is the next question, right? So, I do think they probably would like some additional staff, maybe management on the side, to keep this routine from practice to the gameplay to the matches the same, right? As for their roster, look, Rostermania is crazy. Everyone knows that. I think a lot of what roster moves are chain reactions. So if you can get a player, like let's say this is never gonna happen, but let's say you can get an insight, right? You're gonna want to get insight, and then it's like a chain reaction of what can happen, right? Or if you get a cami, or if you can get, there's only so many players that are, because like I firmly believe OpTic is the second most talented gun skill team in the game. So they need something, like an IGL presence. They need someone that can plug and play into a system and just play their role and not be, um, like in basketball when they say that you don't need the ball in your hands, right? You can play off the ball. Like they need someone like that. That's not going to be
Yeah,
the
role
the
player.
yeah, someone that's just plug and play. So it's never going to happen. But I think Insight, I love him a lot actually as a player. I think if you could put him in the back line, you know what he's doing. You know what his job is. You know where he's going to be. He's not going to do anything crazy. You can just check that off, right? And then whether you want Matt or Formal or Dashy in that flex position, because I actually think that or Formal would be a really good flex player, because sometimes he just likes to ego shell and get really aggressive. So if you put him into that position, I think he would actually be better instead of in the back line waiting. I think that was part of his issue, this past like 2 years, really. But I think if you put him into the flex, and then I'm still very high on Envoy and Scump. Obviously, Scump had a amazing champs weekend, but Envoy, I like how he plays. We did see a big adaptation to his gameplay. You remember in stage 4 we were calling him to play more with his team, and then you really saw that in stage 5 and champs. He changed his play style. He's flexible. He's smart. He communicates well. He has a lot of gun skill, and obviously that team wants to keep him. So, um, I think what you really look at for this team is one, what is our goal next season? Do you want to win championships, right? And every player is obviously going to say yes, but like truly, like dig deep down and what do you need to do next season to get better, right? Because this team, as I just said, I firmly believe second best gun skill team in the game, and they have to find ways to be more consistent on the day to day basis, and that is always their issue. And that's why in the past too, when they had long weekends where they would play like 8, 9 matches, they would catch fire, right? And they didn't need that consistency. They would gain the momentum and just go through it. But now in the CDL era, where we have less matches per day, so you need to really, you really need to be able to chain the fundamentals from day to day instead of relying on momentum. You know?
Yeah. And that seems to be how they played all season. But we've got to touch on the fact that roster changes when they're made every year are made from the game previous. And so you never really know if those changes coming into the following game are going to actually play out the way that you expect them to. And so even if OpTic doesn't make a change, it is possible that just the game itself may suit them more entirely, and like maybe their chemistry works differently on different. Oh, how can I explain this?
I
It's
know what
just
you
like,
mean.
yeah, you remember when TK came in at the start of World War II and just was suddenly they put this team together and they were a top team? It's like it doesn't. I don't think the game previous at all has any play on how the following year is going to go, and that's why I feel like teams like Toronto, even though they were so good this year, it might not play out the same way. And anyway, they might not even be a team next year to start with. So we'll have to see. But yeah, I don't really feel like the roster changes until we actually see the teams playing. We can decide whether they're good changes or not. Because previous years we've thought that certain teams, like especially OGLA, like I thought they were going to be a top 4 team at least going into Modern Warfare, and then the game came around and it just wasn't the case at all. And so yeah, I just assume we'll have to wait and see how the game
Yeah.
plays, what sort of meta it is, if it's even going to be 2 and 2, like 2 SMGs,
You
2
never know,
ARs.
right?
Yeah, like it
You
might
never really
start
know
off
how like
like
the SMGs are gonna play as well. Like, go
yeah.
on.
Think about Sledgehammer games like that. Wasn't the World War II meta at the start 3 ARs, 1 SMG?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
and
Because
think
then
the
so.
pull up time
obviously
and the sprint out time was really delayed.
yeah,
Mm.
and then Advanced Warfare was 4 ARs to start the game.
Battle of Duty.
Yeah,
I will say
and
this
so
though.
yeah,
Every year it usually starts out really AR heavy until you learn how to break hills in hardpoint. That's
mm,
like the major thing. Once you learn how to break hills, you can speed up the momentum, and that's when you start seeing the more SMGs. So yeah,
yeah, fair enough.
You're gonna need like a few, and that's the thing. Like, you don't know how the game plays in terms of pacing and like the way you move around the map to know that. Because Scump and Envoy, I think in this game specifically, the way they decided to play was nowhere near as successful as impactful as the Simp and Abeezy, which is obviously the gold standard. But maybe in next year's title, like, I don't know, maybe the way Abeezy plays, he needs to slow it down a bit. Like, maybe you can't just fly around a corner and shell someone in the same way if the time to kill is really quick, for example, which is rumored to what we're going to see next year. So maybe making more flanks and playing differently does work. So I kind of agree, Lionel. It's tough to base things off that. And the other thing that I would say here, just because as we're going to go on to Los Angeles Thieves, is that another person people have been talking about is Slasher, right? And like, I don't know, I would love to see that personally. OpTic Slasher, that would crack me right up. But and he's also another player that, like, he wants to win, he knows how to win. He would get that team in shape. I don't have no doubt about it. But you got to ask the question. Slasher played with Dashy last year, and I don't imagine particularly liked each other. So it's like, I don't know. Some of the players that could come in here, they might be friction, but go online.
Yeah, I was just gonna think Slasher and Formal, if they teamed as well, they have like the biggest rivalry in COD history.
Yeah,
And
exactly,
they
right?
do not enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, like
So I
his
wonder how
last
that would go.
formal like prides himself on taking down Slasher, right? So that's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, a lot of the potential targets, there's reasons outside of the game that they might not want to play with each other, which might mean you have to think about it differently. Like, because Clayster and Dashy, there's friction. Slasher and Dashy, there's friction. Like, it's just one of these things based on the rumors that people are currently discussing.
Did you see I don't know if this is anything at all, and it's probably not, but Scump tweeting at Clay to come get drunk. It's
He
like, who
did tweet
knows?
that,
Maybe they're
yeah.
conspiring. Just like
I'm
the
sure they were
last time
transferring
that
the
talking to each
team.
happened,
other.
the last time
Huh?
that happened, the last time that
Joined OpTic.
happened, like yeah, formal jumped up back on optic.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's almost confirmed, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here
Yeah.
first on the Breaking Point podcast.
50-50.
Octane's another one actually that people are mentioning, but I just don't know if like
I
I don't think Octane gives them what they need. Like, because
No.
Octane's a phenomenal AR, but when he's been at his best, he's been paired with another player that like is kind of the IGL. Like he's had a JCap or he's had
Slasher.
like a slasher or like even a Slackton Classic, I guess, back in Infinite Warfare. Like Octane's kind of the
He's not
like
the
he'll
head
absolutely gun
voice.
people, but he's not going to bring them like the discipline that I think they need. Like he's kind of like they need that from somewhere else, I think. Um,
Yeah. But it would
so
also be the biggest redemption story in the history of COD if he did
it
come
comes
back.
back to OpTic. Imagine the
Yeah.
pressure though. Like imagine what would
Yeah.
well,
I
you
guess
know.
Clay has the same pressure because of his time. You didn't see Clay play on OpTic, did you, Rab?
Uh, I
No.
watched like maybe one of the events in Ghosts, but
Oh yeah.
I
It's weird to
yeah
think about now. But yeah,
that like
7
that's
years ago.
crazy. X Games baby, X Games
Mm,
2014, Proofy.
damn.
God.
Yeah, the 4 piece.
No chop proofy. Good times, good times. But yeah, I mean LA Thieves, right? So we've got discussion from Slasher, like he comes out on Twitter and says kind of interesting tweets to be honest, being like, look, felt like didn't even get a chance this season, not helped by the fact that I was forced into a 2 month hiatus, LOL in brackets. And I thought it was interesting, right? Because of course, JCap being the coach of their team at least had some significant part to play in Slasher getting benched. Of course, world champions on the same team. Great, yeah, best of friends, you would have thought back in the day. But now maybe Slasher not particularly happy with Jacob's decision making this season. I don't know what happens to Slasher here. I think that he for sure gets a spot somewhere. I don't know if it's Thieves because a lot of people are saying Octane comes in. My perspective is I don't want to see Octane, Slasher, and Kenny on a team. I think that's way too risky. But you know, a lot of people say, look, just put Kenny on a sub and say, look, you're using a sub. You're one of the most talented players in the league. You're gonna make it work, and we're gonna pair you with maybe a Draza, maybe I mean Hook's sitting there on the sidelines. We've got all
Yeah.
the players in challenges. Like it's absolute chaos to think about what potential rosters could form. But personally, I see Octane coming into Thieves and Slasher going somewhere else. I really don't know where that somewhere else is there right now.
Seattle.
Maybe you have any thoughts, Austin?
I,
Maybe.
personally, I don't see Kenny as an SFG player. So that way, so as I said before with like the chain reactions, if they can get Octane, then I don't think Slasher is going to return. But if they can't get Octane, I feel like Slasher is going to be like their main AR, right?
I think
And
that's
it's
fair.
like I think it's like one of those chain reactions that you see because I don't think you can have Octane, Slasher, and Kenny because realistically Kenny's an AR. A lot of like SMGs, like the reason why Scump's so good, he's literally made his career off being one of the best pre-aimers with an SMG and being able to lock down lanes that way. And the year that Kenny was at his best, was when it was a lot of hip firing. It was a lot of just pure movement, just getting around the map, and that was with TK and World War II. So I think he likes to be able to have that weapon that he can take the challenges whenever he wants and be free. And I think as an SMG, he's forced into a role that he's less comfortable with, and that's why I feel like if you have those three, it just won't work. You need like two true SMGs with them. So I think it will be one of those. If they get Octane, I think they pair him with Kenny on the AR, and then we'll see how they try to build around their SMGs because they have a lot of questions. I think they'll have John, Draza, and Venom to pick between, and even other players that are not
Hook.
on other teams. Hook too, yeah, Hook. We'll
Yeah.
see. Obviously, Hook had that falling out, and
Crazy benchman.
yeah. So there is a lot of questions there. There is a lot. So and obviously they have a lot of options outside of their roster already. So uh that roster construction will be definitely an interesting one. It'll be I feel like it'll be firmly in the two ARs and who they feel comfortable playing with.
Yeah. Well, they already have such good talent on their team. Do you guys think that they could trade away certain players to get like a super team that they want, like keeping Hook and then moving him away for someone else? Or do you think his trade value is a little bit too low? Or is he even under contract still? Do you guys know?
Who knows? Because people could opt out of their contracts and then resign right away. And so
Yeah.
you don't know who's done that and who hasn't. So unless a player comes out and tweets out they're an FA, you don't know. So an interesting trade you could do is with like since Skies was in here, you could do one with like Florida, where you send Hook to Florida for like Awakening, and then you have the SMG duo of Neptune and Hook with Caesar on the back line. That would be disgusting.
Oh,
I like the sound of that personally.
There
I think
is
that might be what
Skies.
I try and do actually if I'm Florida.
yeah
Like a kind of a changing tack, but like Neptune for
yeah
sure. I think, I mean, just quick change tack given that Skies is in here. Neptune you got to keep,
yeah.
and
I,
I don't think you want to keep 3 out of 4 personally. Oh, touch my mic. I think you want to keep 2 out of 4, and you got to choose between Wake and Skies. And I think Skies is probably the safer pick. And I'd say Skies, and they like because Hook was linked to Florida before. We got Ogre 2 over there. Like I could see it working. I don't know who the
yeah.
fourth is, but
I
Mm.
I think since Caesar's in here, it's gonna sound weird, but I think Caesar is a very versatile player, and like as I said with Insight, like you know what you're gonna get with him. He's not gonna like even though he did have like a little bump in the road at the beginning of the season, like you pretty much know what you're getting out of him, which is something you can't say about a lot of players.
Yeah.
So it allows you to create a system around him that you know will be stable, right? So if you can lock down that player in the back line, then you only have to worry about your flex. And even then, we might even see like Hook in that flex position because his raw gun skill is tremendous. So if you put him in that flex, then you have Neptune on your entry, and then you just need one, like either slower SMG, maybe like they just did pick up Yeez, but there's gonna be a lot of options for them if they just get that one guy who's just gonna do the dirty work for them, maybe even Havoc. So we'll definitely see, but I do believe that that Florida team is probably in one of the best positions to either improve their team or find like great success next season.
Yeah.
Or back at you, Caesar.
Yeah, and Skies, I feel like early on he had a little bit of trouble. I don't know, finding his place on that team, and then it came around like stage 2, stage 3, and he returned to like Black Ops 4, Modern Warfare form. And it's like when he plays in that form, you know he's going to be dropping like a 1.3, playing his life really well, just perfectly playing the main AR role. Um, but yeah, then Wake, like if we're talking Florida season, like Wake kind of he started off really hot, and then when the Skies started performing
yeah,
really well, Wake dipped. And I feel like, do you think those two things are connected? Like when one's
more than
playing good,
likely.
it's kind of like stealing kills from the other, and it's like I don't know. It's just
It's
like that
really hard.
team.
It was really
Certain players
strange
when
to find
players,
those two playing
Yeah.
the
yeah, it's like when
same.
certain
Like
players played really well
yeah,
on Florida, others fell away, and it's like
yeah.
none of that team never really fully played to their potential because the team wasn't really working together, I feel. What do you reckon, Caesar, in the chat? Do you want to
Yeah.
touch on that?
Mm.
Personally, I think it's really hard when you have two ARs that want to play their own way. And when you have that main AR position, this year was actually really important to be like blocking spawns, to be communicating. So usually like one AR is gonna have to kind of not play in the positions that they want to and be in the more in the back seat. And yeah, no comms. It's obviously something that's huge. So if you're not calming
Interesting.
and you're not on the same level with your team, like that was something we worked on Jesus, like all year is just learning how to correctly small talk and correctly know when to be aggressive and when to play back because you could be making the right play, but if the rest of your team isn't blocking, then your correct play looks stupid, right? So, um, yeah, like just getting on the same page. But when you have two ARs that want to play in the same positions, like obviously one of them is going to have to be put on a position they're not comfortable with, and then they start falling off. And I think we saw like Caesar and Wake like change roles, like not roles, but change positions and how the team wants to play. And like that's when each had their own dips. But like personally, I think that you got to pick one, and then you got to find a player that works well with whoever you pick. So if like I think they go Caesar and have him be that main AR for them and play the game he wants, and then you just got to find a flex player that plays that communicates really well, that plays with the same pacing, and that works well with their SMGs because they actually have a really aggressive like ratty entry SMG in Neptune who's like really annoying to play against. So they don't need immense gun skill. They don't need like a ratty player. They don't need like speed. They need someone who's very good at communicating, and they need someone that's gonna be like the rock of that team, right? That just doesn't let it like drop out because at times like it felt like they had the highest potential in the CDL from where they were playing at, and they just were never able to take it to that next level because it just felt like they couldn't click. And when it went down, it just felt like it crashed, and then they would build it back up, and I think a lot of that definitely has to do with comms, and I think a lot of that has to do with just like being together and communicating and small talking. Like small talking is the most undervalued thing in the CDL, and you could be putting up a 1.2, right, and be the worst small talker, not be playing with your team at all, and it makes your other teammates way worse, and it makes them like fans think, oh, they're the problem, when in reality, like, it could be someone else. It could be that person putting up a 1.2 but not playing as a team. So um obviously that organization is extremely well ran. I have actually a lot of respect for Florida and like Ogre and Ricky, and they just brought in Willet. Like I have a lot of respect, especially with their recruiting and how they look at amateur talent. So if there's one organization that I know will have a good offseason, I know it's going to be Florida. So yeah.
Lion.
Yeah. Well, I have to leave because I got called in to go to work. So
That
that's
is
ideal.
tragic, to be fair. But
Uh,
what can you do? We had a good
yeah,
time, but
yeah. Do we have a
that's
two
fine.
split screen for
Yeah, I
the
think
stream?
Ryan's getting it set up, so we can do a two-man screen. It'll
Uh,
that'll be fine. But yeah, apologies. Well, on behalf of Lion, I guess, but
yeah,
it's fine.
sorry. It's my fault.
Nah, it's all good. It's not your fault, really. I mean, Worker just decided. Look, they don't want the show to go on. They clearly,
Oh,
I don't know.
bunch
Not
of
a fan.
kids.
They're not a fan.
Yeah, they must be Deserto supporters or something, trying to
Oh,
shut down the content.
far out.
We thought maybe
Alright.
you were getting a call from Hex to bring you
Oh, yeah,
in.
yeah, yeah. Nah, I wasn't.
Unfortunately,
No.
not. Okay, well, all good. Um, you'll be back next week. We had
Yep,
a good time.
yep. I'll be posting the cards this week at some point, so I'll catch you guys
Cards
there.
this week.
Alright. Well,
All right, well,
bye.
all good. Yeah, goodbye. Have a good time. Okay, well, that's
Damn,
unfortunate, but
that's so sad.
that's also life. I think we can probably just keep going, right? And if you're
Yeah.
changing the graphic, right, it can happen in the background. Yeah, no problem at all. So anyway, I mean, to be fair, we've already discussed a fair bit with Lions, so it could be worse. Yeah, I think I agree on the Florida front. They've got a lot of potential there. I think that one thing I finally wanted to say on the Thieves thing was if Draza is on the bench again, I'm gonna be fuming. I'm not gonna lie. I don't think it will happen just because Kenny seems to really like Draza, and really respect him and think he's fantastic, and also the vibes and what he brings to the team. So I have faith that we'll see something like Octane, Kenny, Draza +1. But in that case, that they're going to need to. This audio's broken. Yeah, you're fine. You're fine. We're back. We're back. Yeah, no problem.
I,
Yeah, all good, right? All good. Okay, we're back in business, baby. I don't really think we missed anything. So I was just saying, I thought that their fourth could have been Hook, but apparently that's not the case. So
is
could be.
Droza an
But...
FA though? Because he was on OGLA last season, and then
Oh, and they
in
re-signed
LA
him.
Thieves. Like if they re-signed him, then I feel like you got to keep him no matter what, and then you see what you can get in free agency. But that's definitely going to be. I think 100 Thieves have the hardest decisions out of anybody in the CDL like this offseason on how they build their squad, because they're an organization that has really lofty expectations right off the rip.
Yeah.
So and they have so many players that want to go there and that are already there. So they just have they have a ton of questions around them.
Yeah, I can't see John being there. That's one thing I will say. Feel like he had his chance. I don't know. It's tough. So after all that, day 2 of champs is pretty good as well. First of all, before the day even kicked off, got Seattle just axing the whole team. Everyone's gone. Not even kind of interesting because I didn't exactly expect everyone to be gone. I thought, well, I don't know. I guess just the way the contract happened, it depends a lot on the contracts, right? Because I guess they bought out Gunless from Huntsman, or maybe they didn't. I don't know what even happened there, but like anyway, maybe they just didn't decide to extend the contract. But I was wondering whether like Gunless's contract with the Huntsman, and then they bought that out, and therefore it was kind of like a 1+1 type deal, and now he's free. But maybe they just decided not to extend him. But that was kind of the one piece I thought they might keep. Like Octane was obviously like not going anywhere near that. maybe the rest of the team also didn't want to go anywhere near it because discussion about like the difficulties of the management over there, and all that type of stuff. So look, I don't know. Everyone's gone. Joey Nubsy's out of there. Joey Nubsy's getting asked who is going to replace him before they even fired him, even though he knew he was getting fired for months. Like, just seems like such a shambles. Fair play actually turning up and getting a decent result at the last couple of championships they played at. Credit given the circumstances. But of course, that means that Seattle have got to do something. And I think that they're going to, I mean, they've got Phoenix in, rumored as their coach for next year. Done a lot of great things on the challenger scene the last couple of years. Makes me think that serious potential for a lot of challenger players on that team next year, maybe mixed in with one like veteran pro or something to build around. And they just kind of put like a veteran AR or something with a load of challenger talent and hope it works out for them. Probably a better idea than what they've done the last couple of seasons. But and also you've got to wonder where the rest of those guys go, right? Pristini talking about content creation. Of course, Loony was in that team, now saying he's going to be a coach. You've got Classic in a weird spot as well. Gunless and Octane, I think, will be fine, but where they go remains to be seen. So, I mean, TL just threw a spanner in the works before the day even began, Austin.
Yeah, I didn't like them doing that in the middle of champs. Like
They could've waited.
your players aren't even at the tournament, which already hurts enough, and then you just like rub salt in the wound in the middle of the like. I don't know. I thought it could have been handled a lot better on the announcement side. I definitely don't think it should have come in the middle of COD champs, but to each their own, I guess. But yeah, I kind of did expect that Seattle team to chalk it and rebuild from the ground up. I didn't think they would keep anyone right away and maybe like renegotiate with any players that they did have and go from there. But with Crone saying that Phoenix is linked to that team, I definitely see younger players going on that team, not many like well established pros. So that should be a very interesting position for younger talent to get a chance to like succeed and thrive. Um, I actually talked a lot. I talked with a lot with Gunless and Prestini. I think they should 100% still be in the league next season. Personally, I think the way that team was built and like put together, I think they were in a position not to do well. Um, I think so. I'm trying to think how I should put this. I think Gunless is a tremendous talent. This man's been a top 10 player in the league for certain titles in the past 5 years. He's been amazing. So right, and I think what we saw like in the past, like any red flags, like this season, you got to credit everyone on that Seattle team for sticking with it for the entire season and still putting um like the best effort they could given the circumstances. And I think 100% he's gonna find a team. But what I was thinking is like him, Prestini, and Venom would actually be a good trio, and then you can just stick a main AR behind them, whether that's like a slasher or someone on that point. Because I think part of Prestini's weakness is that he's a risk taker, right? He's aggressive, he's a risk taker, and a good SMG duo for him is someone who's smart and can communicate. And so like for an example that pops straight into my head right away is when New York played on Raid Hardpoint. Asim made an aggressive play on Ring, which spawns them really deep if you do it correctly. But when he communicated in it, like it was an actual listen in, which I thought was funny. He communicated, "I am making a play aggressive, block spawns." Right? No one on the team went backwards to block spawns. Not a single soul. Right? So if you were doing the listen, if it wasn't a listen in, and you saw that play, you think Asim made a huge mistake right there, right? That's Asim's fault. That's a stupid play, right? But when you hear the listen in, that's the other three. There was two players, Mac and Hydra, in kitchen.
Yeah.
None of them backed up. Not one of them, right? That is a red flag, right? So I think when you have an aggressive player that likes to take risks, you need a team that communicates well. You need an SMG duo that is very smart, that's going to make the right plays with you. That when you say you're pushing, the other teams have to make sure you're not losing map control in the back. You're not flipping spawns, right? So that's been part of his issues. I don't think he's been partnered up with a good SMG duo and a good team that communicates, that can really do well. And I think if he gets that, it's perfect, right? But it's really hard to find an SMG duo that works like that. So I also thought maybe he should become an aggressive flex. I think he's like one of those players that has crazy gun skill, right? Crazy gun skill. But sometimes he gets into his own head with, I have to be aggressive, I have to be the entryman, I have to be doing this, and he gets into like a cycle, right? And people put that on him and take his stock down because of that. But in reality, I think what they should do is put him. If you think E United with him with the Maddox or in IW, he ran an AR, like right. It put him and Alec tells said on stream that Pristini was actually an AR. When they first came up, right? I think if you put him in that position, I think he would be very successful, and that's something we haven't seen him like try. So I do think both of those players are going to be in the league. A slasher, gunless, pristine Venom team, I think would be a really good sleeper team if you saw like LAG build that, or someone else. I don't know who's really making squad wipes, but I think there's definitely a lot of options for those players.
He's easy back on the Papadi, just crack me up. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that would be good to see. It's just tough to find like what team exactly works. I'll do the Chug Jug redeem in just a second here, lads. But yeah, I think like I don't know. I guess along a similar vein, just because of the way this whole played out, and we see Simp getting the MVP award, which to me is that controversial. Like people seem to think it's controversial. I don't know. I get it. Like Abizi, you can make a very good case. He should have been MVP as well. Um, Personally, I think it was about time Simp got MVP. Last year, you could argue he kind of got robbed. Shotzi also deserving, but Simp statistically has been out of control. I think Simp is this is a hot take, but I think Simp is one of the most underrated players in the league, at least right now, because I think he's so good that people don't give him anywhere near the credit he deserves. I think at times, obviously he won MVP, so he's getting credit. Like, don't get me wrong, but I just think from a community perspective, it's like, oh, Simp without a BZ would be like awful, but I think that's far from the truth. Together, they're phenomenal, but Simp, like statistically, what he does and just watching him play the game is honestly, he just plays perfect COD. It's unbelievable to watch. Like Abizi is incredible at what he does, but he makes way more mistakes than Simp just because of his play style. And that's why I think like maybe Simp isn't like the most valuable, but I don't
I
know.
think it's voter
Yeah, okay,
fatigue.
Simp underrated. Maybe I'm on the Papadia, but
Yeah, I think it's voter fatigue. It's like something like LeBron in the NBA. When you continuously see that player being voted on, you want to like instinctually you want to vote for somebody else just to get that recognition. So I think that's what we see with him a lot. Um, I do think like he is the best Call of Duty player we have seen in a very long time. What's insane is how smart he is, his communication, like his gun skill is the very last like that. It's insane that the gun skill is the last thing that comes to my mind when watching him play. Right? It's like his map awareness is just ridiculous. And just knowing how to play. Like there was a clip of him in practice when he was I think someone tweeted it, or it was in a game where he was in art and there was three guys in ring and he peeked out of lower art, got a kill. But instead of challenging the other two that he saw, he went top art, threw a grenade to make them weak to make the fight easier, and it split the two guys up. It's like little things like that. It's little things that he just does that's insane. But I definitely think it's a little bit of voter fatigue. It's just a little bit of people want to it's also MVPs are just really bad awards, honestly. Because if
yeah,
you're doing most valuable player, I gotta say like Shotzi on Dallas. I
yeah.
don't think Dallas would be anywhere where they are right now without him. And but if it's like the best player in the league, which there should be two different awards. Kind of like the Heisman with college football. There should be two different awards. So you have like the most valuable to your team and then best player in the league award. So, but yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
I think that's fair enough. I mean, yeah, like that day was crazy. Like, you had the crazy Game 5 round 11 that Dallas won against Toronto, and Dallas were also a very interesting question mark. I wanted to touch briefly on New York actually, because of course they got world star by you guys, and then they go down and well. And yeah, it was kind of tough to see in a way, but at the same time, I don't know, they fell off kind of significantly after day one. They ended up finishing top six alongside OpTic. I don't really know what they do. Like Clayster came back and they got a good win. They came top six, wasn't tragic. Maybe better than what they'd have done with Diamond Con in, but I don't really know what you do next year for New York because Raven's already been either let go or has decided to leave as a coach, so that's already a question mark. Don't really know what's going on there. Clayster and Hydra, they seem like a fun duo, but does New York keep them? Do they go elsewhere? I don't really know what you do, but if you're New York, like having a talisman like Clay was fantastic, I think, for your brand. And he was a fantastic player this year, all said and done. Like people forget, first couple of stages, he was one of the best players in the game. So it's tough. I don't really know. I think if you're New York, you probably, I don't know. It's like I want to keep Clay and Hydra, but I know how valuable Asim is to the team, and Mac's really good as well. So you got to do something.
I think New York is a sleeper team to go all European. Because
Blimey.
I've been pretty vocal on it. I don't really think mixed teams are how you win consistently because it's just like the listening, it's the micro communication, it's the small talk that even if you have immense talent, but if you're not small talking correctly, you make mistakes on the map, and then it's really hard to win, right? It's really hard to win when you don't have perfect communication. That's why I think like usually when a team goes full like whatever, like you saw like Toronto go full European, you just see like the small talk, the vibes, everything just kind of picks up. So like it there could be a world where New York goes full European, builds around Hydra that way. Maybe they still try to do mixed team with him, with maybe like Mac, him, and like young, and maybe Asum and some younger players. I don't know, but I don't foresee Clay being there. I definitely think Clay is going to be a really hot commodity this offseason. So I definitely don't expect Clay to be there.
He
But
moves
you're
every off season. That's just how it
yeah,
is.
yeah.
So,
I just see him getting a lot of offers. And I think after teaming with younger players for so long, I think maybe you just want to see more experienced players that don't make as like maybe they want, I don't know, but there's definitely going to be a lot of like movement within that team. I think so. They have a lot of different options they could go. So seeing what they do with like I want to see what they do with Clay, Mac, and Asum first. Like, do they commit to them, or do they commit to Hydra, or do they commit to the mixed team? So that'll be definitely a interesting roster to be looking at under a microscope for the next 2 weeks to see how they build their team.
yeah, agreed. Sense of a formal, it's a no-brainer. But yeah, let's continue on how things transpired because there was obviously a few teams I knew that remained at that point, 4 teams left. Toronto just won. Like every series Toronto play is so much fun. They they win this crazy game 5 against Minnesota Rokkr. Almost threw it away. I mean, they actually choked a pretty bad 5-3 lead in the game too. They should definitely not choke that one. They lose that standoff. Then it goes all the way to game 5. They're up 5-3 again, and they lose a round because Major Maniac make crazy play. But Toronto win. Their search and destroy is just so good to watch, especially on Moscow, which is when it came to the grand finals. It was good for you guys that you closed it out 5-3. Let's just say. But on the Rokkr side, they, of course, paid. I don't know how much they paid for their players, but rumor has it they gave Priester a bag to make sure he wouldn't go to Los Angeles Thieves, or it was OGLA at the time before it was bought out. But whatever. They've signed those players. I don't know. Apparently, it was talked about. I didn't actually see this, but there was some article from a few months ago when maybe Brian Saint said that they'd signed all their players on like 1+1s from the start of last season or like this previous season. So I think that if they want to extend their players, they can. So it's like, do you extend that team? I think maybe you do, but the risk is that you've won an event, which is not like a fluke, but you could run let's say they play the next few events out. I don't think they're going to win another one in. Maybe it takes them one in every 6 they might win or something. I don't know. Of course, they win that one. Great. They come fourth at the World Championship. They lose to Dallas, lose to Toronto, and the respawn again looks somewhat questionable. So if it's me, I'm like, maybe I have the opportunity to stick, but this is the off season when like everyone's a free agent and there's a lot of potential for upgrades. Even then, I'm not 100% sure what upgrades you make, but it's I think it's an interesting question for those guys because they got their results at the end of the, but I can't necessarily see next year and being being a top 3 team, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the opposite. I don't think we're going to see as many MVP players available this offseason. You're going to see more of like the 10 through 30 range be available. So I don't think you see like I really like the 4 players you have on Minnesota. I don't see a clear upgrade unless you're like in the run for Octane, right? Like right now, the only
Yeah.
major player that's a free agent is what, Octane. That's the only one we pretty much know, and all
Yeah.
the rest of the top like 15 players in the league are locked. So it's really hard to make those game-changing roster upgrades, right? So, as I said before, it's really a chain reaction. If you can get Y player, then X player is on the chopping block kind of deal. So, while like I really like, obviously I love Preston, Mike. I like the way Dylan, like Attach plays when he finds like the system he wants to be in. I really like Standy. I think he's a young player. So, um,
He is a young player.
yeah, no, a really good young player. There you
Yeah,
go.
that's
There you go.
funny.
Fix that.
Yeah, yeah, you go.
So they have a lot to build on. I don't know if you make many changes within that roster. I think that it's kind of they're going to be in a tough position unless they find a clear upgrade in one of their positions. If that makes sense.
Yeah, agreed. I think they might well stick. I've thought for a while, like, when they were struggling, I was always thinking most of the season, like, could they get a slasher? Would that be the play? But I don't know where that works. Major Mania was really good, to be fair, at the end of the year, and so it's tough, right? And you also don't know whether there's going to be online. It's like, do I team? Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw some crazy stat today, like the biggest differences between online play and LAN play, and Slasher had like a 0.98 or something online, and then like a 1.2 on LAN, and
Yeah.
it wasn't too much
Disgusting.
different for Octane either, which is like, it's a mental thing to a degree, but there's also some players are just better on LAN, to be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Rokkr probably stick, but you never know. Then third place we have Dallas Empire. They lose. I mean, that series was insane. The game for Hardpoint, one of the best Hardpoints I think I've ever seen on a like raid. Man, it was in the game in 2013 and 2012 even. It was when Black Ops 2 came out, and it's still like the best competitive map ever, and has produced the greatest moments that we've seen this year. So props to Trek for bringing it back. Like the moments, especially this one. The raid control was crazy as well just before that. And then you got going to a raid hardpoint that finishes in ridiculous fashion with I thought Ultra had won it, and then I thought Dallas had won it, and then Ultra break back in, but it's not enough, and the streaks are raining down from the heavens, and the beautiful camera shot that the observers get. It was just absolutely fantastic. What a map. But Toronto actually regain. This is why I was impressed. European teams of the past blow those and throw away the series. Now, having said that, they did blow a 4-0 lead to Rokkr at Stage 5 Major, so I'm not saying they're invulnerable to choking, but what I will say is that Red Reserve, for example, in World War II, if they lose that, they 100% lose the map 5, and I can put money on it. But Toronto, like they can regain, and they did so. They win Game 5. They take down Dallas, get their revenge for the winners bracket side, and that puts Dallas in a weird spot because I agree with your take earlier that Shotzi might be the most valuable player in the league to an individual team. I think that's probably true of Dallas Empire. I think without Shotzi, they are probably very lost. So that brings the question: can that team of 4 actually beat FaZe? This is the thing. If you're a general manager, if you're an organization, you're like, okay, can I beat FaZe? Now, yes, they went game 9 with you guys in the grand finals, but I know arcitys said like it was the best, the worst COD you guys have played all year, and still won the thing. But still, there's that looming question to me as to whether this squad of 4 really has what it takes. I mean, they've had great results this season, but it's kind of like an OpTic thing where I don't know. I just never feel confident they're gonna win. They're gonna win it. It just feels like, yeah, they've kind of got what it takes, but they don't always piece it together at the same time. Having said that, I like the pieces. I think that Shotzi and Vivid have actually become a really good SMG duo. Illy had some great moments, and I do really rate him. And then Crim's not, well, in my opinion, Crim's not going anywhere. Like he actually played really well when he needed to, but had a difficult Saturday or whatever. I think he tweeted he was feeling somewhat under the weather. But yeah, I think Dallas is a really interesting question to me because it feels like you have to make some move. And what I'd be really interested to see, just as one final point, I thought I'd throw it to you. Like if Illy, because Illy's only been on that team since he joined the league. Like if Illy was to go somewhere, like I wonder what that would. Where would he go? Like what would he fit in with? Like which players would he go to? Like what role would he play? I'd really be intrigued to see what that looks like. But maybe they stick. But I'm not sure Crim's looking at the team and Crim and Shotzi looking at the team and thinking that this is, they can take down FaZe next year. I don't know. Maybe they do, but
Um, See, I think they have a big question, right? Crim talked about this. They were putting Ilya on the SMG to prepare for getting Clay
I'm
back
sure, yeah.
in stage 2. Um, I guess you have the first question is, do you like, because they love Illy, they love Ender there.
Yeah.
They think he's like one of their cornerstone pieces. Do you think he can be elite at a sub, right? If you can get Clay this offseason, do you think Illy can perform very well on a sub, right? If that answer is yes, then you have a tough question about Vivid, right? I think
Yeah.
that's like going into obviously Rostermania, there's going to be a lot of hard decisions and hard questions that you're going to have. Obviously, the first one is, can we even get Clay? If that's a yes, then I feel like Crim is gonna want that back. I feel like they worked very well as an AR duo in Modern Warfare. Obviously, that was 5v5, but they've also teamed up in Complexity way back in the day
Mhm.
in 4v4. And I also think that uh, Clay can be a very good main AR, and then Crim could be. I feel like he's in his best moments when he's a
I'd like to
flex.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, when he can be more
Super
aggressive.
aggro.
Yeah,
Like his engagements, like I've seen games where he has like way more engagements than Shotzi, and I'm like, what's going on? He's the maniac,
yeah. He
but
loves to fly. He loves
he
to
loves to
fly.
go.
So and I actually really respect him as a player and as a leader. So I feel like in him and Clay, I feel like one thing he does really well is they offset each other when they're communicating as a team or when there's issues. So I think that they definitely want to be together again. I feel like that worked very, very well last season, and then this season, obviously, they both had a step down. So it only makes sense for that. But then the question is like, who do you have? If you have Crim, Clay, and Shotzi, who's that fourth player? And obviously that organization loves Illy. They love Ender, so that's going to be one of those questions that probably pretty much answers itself. But then the question is how good will Ender be on a sub? Is there going to be 3 ARs? How's that going to go? So there's definitely a lot of conversation, a lot of steps for that organization, and you could see them look completely different, or you could see them as the same four going into next season. So that's going to be a one of those chain reactions type deals that if it gets
Yeah,
going, it's gonna go, and if it doesn't, then you're gonna see them stick. So who
I wouldn't be
knows?
surprised to see that. Like, I think it wouldn't be the worst idea. Like, if you get Clay, bring him back in and just like put Vivid on the bench or something, and just run it with Illy. And if it doesn't work, bring Vivid in because I think Vivid and Shotzi could be a great SMD duo. I feel like of those five, like they have definitely a championship winning roster there. I'm
Low
just not sure
key,
what they have right now is perfect.
low key, they are a sleeper team to get Octane. I think
Oh
there is a
wow,
world where
yeah,
Octane could definitely go there, be that main AR for Crim, work with whoever they have for their SMG duo,
having
probably Illy and
content, baby.
Shotzi. So yeah, they're I do think they're a nice sleeper team there. Yeah, they're a team that's loaded with talent and they have high goals for themselves. Like they get pissed when they're second, right? They're just like us. They don't want to be losing to anybody. So um, losing in the fashion they did this weekend, that's not going to sit well. So they're going to come with a fire next season. So I can
Yeah,
definitely see
especially the
them
game
trying to make
five, like
plays.
the way it fell apart, like the discipline and over challenging things, and Shotzi was flying out on his own, and you feel like if you've got Clay and Crim there, it's like reminds me kind of that Piccadilly they played against Toronto at Modern Warfare Champs when it was like Clay was hyping up Hook, right? And that was like a must-win game five or whatever that they went to. If they didn't win that, they probably don't win Champs. And like that's kind of what Clay and Crim brought to a team in terms of like not like good cop, bad cop, but they have like the two sides of the perfect like management style or whatever. Which I think can still work in 4v4. So we'll see. But yeah, so Dallas are out, and then we go to an unbelievable grand finals. I mean, it was a great series. I was happy to see it was a great series. After map one, I knew it was going to be good, and then after map four, when you guys just body the back-to-back raids, I was like, okay, maybe maybe it's not going to be so good. But it turns out being we had like 240,000 viewers across a few co-streams, which I was impressed at. I don't think it was as many as last year, but like given what we've seen the season and coming into that, and of course there were other reasons why we were watching for the codes and stuff, but a lot of people were sticking around, and the viewership just kept on growing. Which is great to see. So I think we had a cracking series. It was good that Toronto were going to be able to put up as much of a fight as they did. Like there was a couple of key moments to me. There was the Express Search and Destroy, the Bants defuse, Selim clutched the 1v2. Like Selim had his artillery, flew out and died, and then Bants, by the time he got the trade, it was 0.1 off the getting the. I mean, it might have even been less than 0.1 to be honest. Like it was literally 1 pixel. I think I couldn't even barely see the pixel that separated that from the defuse. You kind of felt as soon as he picked it up that he hadn't got it, but it was so close. Like I kind of knew he hadn't got it, or at least I thought I knew. But then when it was getting that close, I was like, oh, maybe he does, but not quite. And losing that round 11 was tough, but not something you can't bounce back from. It was really that Garrison control. I mean, going up 2-0, I was like, FaZe are back on the offense here, but you guys are just your control record this season is 40-9, which isn't bad. And on Raid, you're 17-3, and on Garrison, you're like, I want to say like, I don't know, 20-4 or something. I don't know, something like that. It's kind of ridiculous. 21 in something.
Do you want to just go map by map and we can kind of like break it down?
Andy, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, far away.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with like the way the vetoes work is we get one veto in hardpoint, S&D, and control, and they get one veto in hardpoint. And then what happens is we pick map 1, they pick map 2, 3, and 4, and then we pick map 5, and then they pick map 6, I think. Yeah, they pick map 6, and then 7, 8, and 9 are just whatever's remaining. So they get 4 map picks. And what's actually funny is we won all 4 of their map picks, the Express, Raid, and Gary, and then they won both of our picks, which was Moscow and Miami. It was like
Yeah.
something small, but to start off, the smartest veto Toronto had the entire weekend was vetoing Garrison hardpoint, right? Both teams didn't have a warm up going into this series, so we came in pretty like really cold. And yeah, Ocho. So that pretty much goes into that. We literally went in cold, like nothing. And what we really wanted to do was play Garrison map 1, because in scrims the first map you play is Garrison, and it's really puggy.
Oh,
It's
wow.
really chow heavy, and you
Very
can just start
interesting.
getting going, right? Whereas Moscow is very slow. It's very it puts more pressure on your communication in playing like fundamentally correct, right? So Toronto's auto veto was Moscow all season. I do think I kind of made a mistake. Like the team made a mistake putting Moscow map 1 instead of playing APOC map 1. I do think that if I could go back, maybe there'd be one shift I could do. But other than that, I think like Toronto, the vetoing that Gary was one of the smartest things they did all weekend, because it was like a 50-50 flip there on who would come out hotter. But yeah, I think they could have used that momentum to really get a leg up in the first part of that series.
Yeah, no, that's bang on. And like, shout out Marky B, man. Like,
Yeah,
and also the rest of the guys. You got Flux, you got Joe
and
as well.
Joe.
Like, they
Yeah,
didn't even announce really that Joe's there.
yeah,
But he is, and that's awesome to see because Joe's he doesn't tweet too often, but cracking player. You still always enjoy watching Joseph Piddington hitting the flank, and he's gonna ruin your day. But yeah, that was game 1. I was really impressed with the way that went for Toronto because they don't really play Moscow too much. They win it. And then it was that game 2 that really was. If Toronto won that, I really felt like this could have been a very different series. I thought as soon as you guys won that, and then the next 2, it was like you're gonna find a way to close this out.
yeah. So we actually, so after we beat, what was it, Dallas on Saturday, um we all 4 of the coaches, we pretty much watched VOD for like 6-7 hours. We just had one of those sessions where you're just sitting there just watching everything. And we did expect the express pick map too. We did game plan a lot for it because we really haven't played it in a while. The last time we played it, we practiced completely different from the last time we played, so we were pretty happy with getting that map too. And we saw Toronto actually played it the day before. They actually played it twice, and in one map they lost, and one map they won. And so we were kind of banking that they would play the same way they did when they won. But Toronto played really, really well. They had a lot of good retakes. They played really, really well. That honestly, that map we probably should not have won. Um, right? I mean, I guess it was close. You had that one Bance play, and that's one round that switches, but there was a couple rounds where I do think we could have won that we lost. So it was like one of those 50-50 maps that made the best team win in round 11, and Tyler just went absolutely ginormous. And that one gunfight where he ripped CleanX off the heady when he was in
Hmm.
train was just like that was round changing. So yeah,
Yeah, agreed. I mean, absolutely fantastic stuff. Like it was tough to watch as a European Cup fan. I'm not gonna lie, losing that one.
yeah,
I mean, the 2 raids, like you guys just demolished them. This is where I was like, wow, because I thought that going into it, I was like, okay, the Search and Destroys, Toronto can certainly split. And I was like, they've got to win a control. They've got to take a control somewhere. Losing both controls is going to be a death sentence. And I thought the raids maybe gave them their best chance actually, because they're really good at that. Obviously, you guys are unbelievable at it, but I thought the Garrison would go your way. And just the way you guys just bodied them on that and carried the momentum was very impressive. But then it's Miami Surge, which is very much a reset, and again, Toronto bounced back in the reset. So I was just impressed at both teams, man. Like it was clearly the two best teams in the game going toe to toe, which is what you want to see in the World Championship Grand Final. North America, Europe, it was just great.
Yeah. So those two the raid maps I'll touch on quickly. Like that was when you could tell we started getting into the groove, like where like the first two maps were like a warm up, the communications getting a lot better. I think Tyler and Chris were both double positive combined in those two maps. Like they had 2.0s in those two. I loved that raid pick. I was so happy they did raid map 3 because I actually think they had a better chance of beating us on Gary going into that series. Like practice leading up to that, we were like 16-1. I guess it doesn't really matter. I can talk about practice data. Like we were 16-1 on raid going into that week, and we were 13-7 on Gary. So like
Oh,
still
interesting.
really good, but like obviously that's like a little bit of weakness. And like watching Toronto like play raid, they looked like not as strong as like stage 3 and 4. You remember when they were just 3-0ing everyone just like us? And
Yeah.
I did notice they kind of regressed like a little bit because I feel like teams are just game planning really, really heavy for how they play, and it kind of hurt them. But I did like that pick a lot. I knew as soon as we got into it, those are like two strong maps for us. Like that's where like we really get warmed up. But that map 5, the Miami, that's when like their coaching staff, like their preparation was amazing. Their mid game adjustments. So if you rewatch that round 1, we prepped for that so hard. So we knew that like Bance loves going the boat pretty much every round, and what we did was sell, trying to like push him towards mid. And if you watch, Tyler was literally glued to that mid cut, and he wasn't
Hmm.
peeking the mid cut because we knew there was always an AR mid on that mid truck heady looking at that cut. So we kind of forced Ben into thinking that he had a safe space to go to, and then he got picked, and that's how we won that first round. But then if you watch the next defense, they completely changed their game plan, kind of, and they like made in mid game switches that are so hard to do and do it so well. And yeah, that Miami, they outplayed that. Like we outplayed them completely on the two raids. They outplayed us in the Miami. And yeah, that was just, that's where you see the brilliance in Toronto and like their teamwork, their chemistry, their preparation. So that was just really impressive because going into that event, Miami was actually our best S&D map. Um,
Wow.
yeah,
That is awesome to hear from your perspective, like what it takes, to actually be in a grand finals. And there's some teams that don't have that tactical depth and ability to make changes on the fly. And part of that's the players, part of that's the 7 coaches slash analysts that those two teams have between them, which
yeah.
is probably saying something. Um, so yeah, I guess it goes from the Miami. I mean, what was after the Miami? It
The
was
Gary control.
yeah. Oh no.
So that one I was actually really, I was not worried about, but that's one of the ones where you get, when you get put in the trap, it's hard. And
Yeah, that
Toronto
round one.
knows, yeah, they know how to hold that trap pretty well. They're probably one of the best teams at it. So yeah, they won the defense, and then sometimes like it just like you get the momentum and it combines, and they just cleanly won that offense. And I was like, ah boy, okay,
Yeah, it was
rate S and
impressive.
D, right? And
Yeah.
you just kind of just got to wipe it off. But then defenses can be a momentum wiper on that one. So if you just come back with a strong defense, which we had a really strong defense, we got some streaks going, and that's crucial. So an underrated aspect of control is knowing when to play your streaks and knowing how to get those as a team. And that's part of the reason why we were so strong in control. I don't think anyone was even close to us. And like we know how to play together to bait and to help out for a teammate. Like it doesn't matter if you're a main AR. It doesn't matter if Alex the first man in. If you're baiting to help Tyler, for instance, get streaks. It doesn't matter. So like that's one of the most underrated aspects of our game, I think, is communication and knowing how to play as a team to get the, not only win the objective, but to give yourself a higher percentage chance in the next round as well. So we won that defense, and I think we had like 2 or 3 players on streaks. And then when you do that, when you know that, you can we knew that on defense they like to get aggressive mid, so we kind of played for that. They got the kills, they got the points, and they just chained it. So then I was more worried that we were gonna play around, that we were gonna get defense on that round 5 with the 4 sets of streaks. I think we had. I think we had 6 or 5 or 6 streaks, and I'm just there thinking like, even though it sounds great to have on defense, you can you can play too passive and give up too much map control, and the streaks just don't come into effect. They get usually when teams know you have streaks, they do it early aggressive A play on offense, and then so then your streaks become useless. But we actually got offense, and then I think we wasted every streak. Honestly,
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
mean,
any of
Bans was
them.
going rogue.
Yeah, Bance made a game-saving play, which is weird too, because if you go back and watch that play, MC had the iPad out, so I was like, oh, he saw him mid, right? He had the ping. I thought he saw him mid, and then we would kill Bance and then cap the point, game over, right? And for some reason, Bance ended up getting 2 or 3, and just getting that 2 slowed down the capture progress. It made it
Legit.
more
I
mixy.
thought he'd save the game, man. It
Yeah,
was so painful to watch. Bance made
yeah,
like the best play of the tournament
yeah,
up top green, finessing around, killing everyone he needed to, popping a 5-piece. And like done enough, it was 10 to 8 lives. And I thought, wow, 10 to 8 lives on obviously there was only one more tick to be captured, so it's
yeah,
tough. But and then Simp just makes a god tier play, sneaks through bricks, gets 3 kills,
yeah,
and gets hyped as a result. And understandably so. It was Bads did all that, and then just Simp just bails you guys out
yeah.
with a crazy individual play.
That was, I think, the best map. So like the raid S&D, the 2 S&Ds, like obviously they were really close, but I feel like like each team had their own rounds where they looked good. But that was the map where I was like, it was so 50-50. It was so like 2 teams just headlocking. It was one of the best maps to watch in my opinion. But then we went to raid.
100%.
Yeah, we went to raid and we won all 3 of the tournaments we won were on raid. So
Yeah.
we come back and we're all fired up, and Tupac and Chris, like everyone, like literally we watched VOD for, I think like 6 hours. I don't even know.
Bloody
But
hell.
we were really prepped on raid. We knew we play the same. It's honestly insane. We kept watching their attacking rounds, and it's like, wow, that is the same thing we do. Like when you plant water, one guy goes in Tiki, one guy plays the open stairs, two guys in pool. The guy in Tiki's basically job is just to burn the clock, and the guy open kind of helps him, and they play off of each other. And then the 2 guys pool, you watch one watches flank, one plays for the
Yeah.
bomb defuse, right? So we have a lot of similarities how we play that map, but that was one of those maps I think I hate when teams usually say this because like a lot of teams will just say we threw that, but like that game probably should have been like 10-1, 10-2 in my or like 9-2 in my opinion. Because you had that one round where Cammy just absolutely probably one of the best plays in the entire year. He had 2 4
Oh,
pieces
100%.
that were just insane. That 4 piece I thought we should have won that round. Um, he was I think I don't even I it was just
That was
amazing.
absolutely disgusting, man. Like
It's just like
the
breathtaking watching
the
that happen.
sexiest thing about that kill cam was that yes, it was a
Yeah.
4-piece in like 5 seconds, but it wasn't like he
Oh
lined up 3 of them and killed the
no,
4th guy.
it was
It
snap,
was
snap, snap.
it was top red dead, right side dead, left side. Oh no, it was top red, left side, right side, and
Yeah,
then on the heady, I just beams arcitys, and that's a tough gunfight to win because that head glitch when arcitys
yeah,
in there, like you've got to be really accurate with your headshot.
yeah,
And he just nailed him. It was like, holy shit, this guy's out of control.
yeah.
It was just
And then
beautiful to watch.
there was like the 4v2 retake that
And that
we
one,
just
like
had.
I mean,
Yeah,
like
just
I don't
one
know how the hell Kevin's
miscommunication.
getting a 3-piece there.
Yeah, one miscommunication just compounds. It's like one of those micro things that just hurt you. And then I think we had 2 rounds where we had a 3-2 advantage, and we like threw it away. And then we had one round where we killed Cammy early. We killed him pillars, and we had them pinned in ring. And I think it was Insight. It might have been Bance actually. Got a kill on Chris mid because Chris was watching. There was a cut you could watch, so you can see when they go to bomb. And I think it was Bance like slow peeked into it and got the kill with a Krieg, and that like opened the round for them. So there was so many rounds where I was just, we should have locked this up, we should have zipped it up,
Yeah.
and then the whole time I'm thinking, sitting there just like, oh, Moscow's map 9, my
Yeah,
heart's
exactly
throbbing, I
right.
can't take this. But then yeah, then we had APOC map 8, which I don't know, how did you feel going into that map 8 as like an outsider? Do
I
you
thought it
like,
was over personally.
you
Like
thought it was over?
yeah, I thought I'd never really seen Toronto play that map, and I just think in terms like the importance of the SMGs, um, I was very like at that point I'd kind of resigned to well, not really. Like I was still kind of confident, but in my head I was like, that Gary control man. Like I didn't see them ever beating you in a not game 9. So I was like, this APOC, I don't know. I know you guys are insanely good at it.
Yeah.
And obviously, the little Celium jump spot, that literally won you the championship. That one kill won FaZe Champs because they had rotation. It was looking actually solid. I was looking at it thinking, damn, 90 to 90. Ultra have got rotation. Banter's in a nice spot by the tree. He can get this kill on Cell. Probably hold a good 30, 40 seconds there. We've got a serious game on our hands. Cell does the jump spot. I think like some people said that Shotzi been doing that for months, but then Cell also said that like that was
No,
safe for champs.
he had that in the back pocket for a minute.
Like that is awesome. That one
Yeah.
kill got him streaks eventually and won the game and won the World Championship. Like
Yeah.
that is one of the craziest shit I've ever seen. Like people talk about impactful kills and non-impactful kills. Like that is the most impactful kill of like the entire tournament.
Yeah.
So man, it
But
was tough to watch, but
yeah, I guess I don't really have to hide this anymore, but like on the season we were 110 and 19 in APOC in practice. And the entire time we're like I think we started like 50-2 on it.
yeah, I remember you saying
Because
like loads of episodes ago that
yeah.
like you're losing it in games, but just shitting on everyone in practice.
And I think we were 50-2 and I really think it was because like when we had 3 SMGs, like it just suits our play style, like the aggression. MC could be a main sub on a different team. He's just disgusting with it. And Alec is actually really good at being like that main AR when he has to be and like locking. Like he's just so smart. He knows how to when to take routes. No one's block spawns. So like that map suits us a lot. And
Yeah.
I was a little bit nervous because we had good side. And honestly, I'm one of the biggest believers that that map has no good side. People don't really understand that because I don't know, they get an opinion and just lock onto it. But when teams have good side, they play for P2 spawns way too much, and as soon as somebody gets pushed up dirt like underneath, you start spawning out right away. So
Yeah.
it's really there is no good side. In practice, like leading up to that event, we played it 19 times. We were 6-1 on bad side, 7-5 on good side. And like for the year, we were 63-9 on bad side, and we were 47-10 on good side. Like even though it's just a little
Very
bit better,
interesting.
yeah, we were just clearly better on the bad side because we were the best team without a doubt, not even close at chaining 3, 4, and 5 together. Because it really doesn't matter if you go down 80-10 in the first like 2 minutes of the game, right? Let's say you get like 10 seconds. You limit them to 10 seconds. You split it 10-10 on like the P1. They get a full 60. You're down 70-10. Doesn't matter because P4 and P5 is like an automatic 120 if you can lock it up. So even though you go down, you can go watch a bunch of our games back for anyone that's in here that wants to watch like that rotate because like APOC, even though it sounds puggy because it's so small, it's very rotation heavy. It's very very hard to break, so you need like really good team communication on that. Um, yeah, you can go watch. I think there's like 4 games where we go down like 80-10, and like after the first rotation's done, so after the first 5 hills, we were up like 170 to 80. So
Happened
like
against OpTic, right? Like when
yeah,
you guys played them, it was the same thing
yeah.
that game 4, yeah.
So we got flipped in P2, and I was just like, kind of like, okay, good. So now it's like we're on bad side, right? We don't even get. I think it was 10 seconds left of P1. They flipped us. I'm like, yes. Now I'm actually more comfortable with this. I'm happy now. And both the P2s were insane actually because like all 4 of us were hitting front, and all 4 of them were hitting the back, and it was just like pure gun skill. Whoever wins this, like you know what I mean? Like it was just bashing heads, right?
Yeah, yeah.
On P2, which you never see that actually in practice. You just don't. You usually see teams trying to hit the back but we had some hill control. They had some hill control, and it was just hitting each other. But that was one of those maps where I was like nervous because I really didn't want to play Moscow at all because they're just
I agree.
yeah. But yeah, that APOC was
That would have been a
I was
that'd have
just
been a
so
banger.
happy, man. I was so happy to see us like get flipped on that P2, which sounds so weird, but then get flipped and then play like so solid, and then like MC, yeah, so like the thing is with those nerd spots, it's like you either use it in the season and people like gas you, or you save it for when it really matters. And yeah, so we had a bunch of spots that between like trophy spots, jump spots, like jump peaks, and it's like it doesn't matter if you use it in a state. It doesn't even matter if you use it in like a major. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter if you use it in a. I don't even know why people are using like cool spots in like league matches. It was like we're we're gonna save it, and we're gonna we're gonna pop that when we need it, and that was yeah, I saw him
That was a
hopping
big one.
up, and the casters did like
The
they did
observing was so perfect,
the
right?
observers did it so good. I don't know
It's
how they
almost
knew
like
that
they
was coming.
knew. It's like they
I don't
knew
know
that you
how they
guys,
knew
like,
that,
were
but
about
yeah,
to pull that off.
they nailed it. They nailed it, and yeah, that literally spark plugged the break, and the next thing you know, we have full P5 control. I think it was like plus 45 we got on it, and then yeah, we limited the damage on P2, P1 and P2, and then we just did the same thing on the back end of that rotation. So yeah, that pretty much the series in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was tough. Like, if it had got Moscow, I don't. But it just wasn't to be. Like, you guys were the better team at the end of it. So yeah, I mean, congrats. It caps off a phenomenal. And only one tournament did you guys not make a grand finals, which is kind of ridiculous. It's almost complexity levels of dominant. Of course, the tournaments are different nowadays. You know, there's 3 of whatever, but still, you got to win the
Yeah.
group. So it's interesting. I did want to touch because we've been banging on for ages, and thanks to all of those of you who have joined us. It's been certainly a good time. Toronto, rumors that CleanX has not yet been re-signed. The rest of the guys have been, which definitely raises some question. Because if it's me, if I'm a GM, I really rate CleanX. I think that there was an interesting article I saw where Cammy said that the most talented player he's ever played with is CleanX. And I guess he hasn't played with like a crazy amount of players, but he reckons that Toby CleanX is, I guess, talent wise, best player on that team, maybe apart from himself, I don't know. But still, he he'd be a target, I think, for a lot of people. There's not many players that have that ability to be an aggro sub and put that much pressure on the map. Like, I was just thinking the other day, if I ran into a guy like CleanX in league play, you're just getting destroyed because he's dropping like 70 and he's being insanely aggressive, getting spawns, doing literally everything. Like, that is the most impactful player you can have when he's playing well. That's, what a BT does as well. So, CleanX can be up and down in the same way as a BZ, but he could be a very valuable player to so many teams. I think that Toronto team would miss him dearly. But maybe if there's big money being offered, he could go elsewhere, which could mean that who knows what happens with the rest of Toronto, because we know that Crimsix has talked very highly of Cammy, even before the crazy performance he put on this past weekend, saying that like he thinks he might be the best player in the game. And certainly in the conversation. So that's
Yeah.
another question, right? Yes, he might have been re-signed, but if Dallas come along and say, "Yeah, we're going to pay you an absolute
That
fortune,"
buyout. Yeah.
then you could get a buyout to happen. So um, it's very interesting what could potentially happen here. I would like them to stay. I think they've been a great team to root for. I think if they split up, I don't think we're necessarily going to get another European team quite like them going forwards. But I think that as a result, European talent has got a lot more credit, which has been great. So I don't know what the chances are of that team splitting up, but it's never impossible with COD Rostermania.
Yeah. I think the Toronto contracts were the case of like the 3 players. Well, I mean, Insight signed this year, and I think Cammy and Vance must have re-signed after last season if they're not free agents. And CleanX was on his year 1 contract. That's what it must have been. So, um, I really don't see him leaving. I think what he's gonna do is just resign and probably get the bag from Toronto. I don't know how if he's not on that team next year, it's because they either found like something went terribly wrong, or yeah, CleanX got like the opportunity of a lifetime that he just had to take. So, um, yeah, that Toronto team, I have they're the one team that I like. I think is just disgusting. I think they have a lot of potential. They're the best European team I think in history. Like they got to be up there, right? And I think a lot of people. So I had like I think Cammy and Sal are like the clear cut 2 top flexes that make the correct plays, that are really smart, that are aggressive but know when to play it safe, that have communication. Like those 2 clear cut above everyone else. I think Insight and like Alec are like the top 2 ARs, right? I think those 2 are amazing at what they do. And then I have all 4 of our SMGs. So the 2 in Toronto, 2 are
Yeah,
2 in the top 5 for SMGs. I think Bance is
yeah.
extremely underrated at being
Vance
IGL, and
deserves a lot of credit.
yeah,
Yeah.
like he was frying in this finals. He did really good. Um, he was standing up tall to I mean, on the raids, obviously the whole team got bodied, but on the other maps, they were doing very very well. Bance was making really smart plays. So after stage one, when people were calling for Bance to be replaced, you know, the play as big as he did for the remaining year, like it just shows he's just a really smart player. And I would rather have a point 0.9 that makes the correct play every single time and brings the intangibles than have a 1.2 that is playing selfishly and making mistakes and doesn't communicate well. So yeah, I have immense respect for them. They should definitely stick. They have one of the best coaching staffs in the league. Shout out all three of those guys. You know, Ryan, Flux, Marky, and Joe. So yeah, those I love those guys. I hope they stick because they are going to be a very 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 good team next season.
Agreed,
If they
absolutely.
do, yeah.
I hope they do. They've been a great team to root for. So
Yeah.
just kind of a shame they're, you know, I had people replying to me when I talk about best European team ever saying they're Canadian. I'm like, that's not how it works, lads. You
It's
know,
not how that works.
how do you to COD? But yeah, so let's take a couple of questions before you finish. I wanted this one from Turtle. I think is very interesting about like a free agency signing period because I think it's an interesting take given what we were discussing earlier that you don't really know. And Lion was saying what teams are going to be like before the game's really launched. Now, having said that, I do want really the game to launch and like 3 weeks later, you know, an event just gets dropped and we crack on straight away. That'd be the best. So of course it's kind of a one or the other. If you want to say, okay, you can sign free agents, like I guess technically you can sign them whenever, but if there was like a period where you couldn't do anything until the new game came out, I think personally that's too long anyway after the season.
Yeah, it's
And I think in an ideal world, I want the game to drop and then we crack on. And it hasn't really caused that many issues. The fact that people just signed people like soon after champs in the past, and it's kind of chaotic. I wouldn't want like champs to finish and then things to just go dead
yeah.
for like a while. You know.
So I'll touch on two things then. I'll start with the free agency period. I feel like they really can't push it back any much because literally the night of champs ending, people are already thinking of their next moves, right? And it's so chaotic that if you push it, you're just gonna have teams pre-forming or like deals in place beforehand. It's really tough to limit that. But for events happening sooner, look, I'm the biggest proponent of that, but I understand why they can't do it because you got to think of the fiscal year. So it's still a business, it's still a company, right? You got to think of the fiscal year doesn't start until January. Like, if they were to throw an event, let's say in December, like they have to include that in the year before's budget. So let's say we want to throw an event next December,
I'm
not
thinking
even this
about that.
December, next one, you have to plan it out almost 18 months in advance, right? And with COVID, everything happening, do you even know that
Yeah.
that the game's gonna launch in November? Do you know if the game's gonna launch in December? How can you plan out put budget ahead if you don't know that, right? But so that's why that's really really hard to plan out, and that's why like you had like MLG that was really good at planning that out ahead. They knew when they're gonna have their tournaments like 2 years in advance. That's something that CDL will do better in time, right? You just that's one of those things where like I gotta understand that we're in a new era with CDL. They're a new company. They're learning. We're in COVID right now, still COVID time. So I personally, the way I would format the year is we have, you know, the same like group play stages like we do now, but only for December, January, February, maybe March, and then you just have straight tournaments, right? Because I think league play matches are wonderful, great to have at the beginning of the year when you're learning games, you're trying to get reps, you're trying to play those maps in meaningful matches, you know. But as the season goes along, no one likes watching league play matches. No one does. Like watching the stage 5, stage 4 league play matches, everyone hates that. So you got to find a good blend of having those league play matches early in the season and then having heavy tournaments at the end of the season. So again, there is a lot of good people running the CDL. Obviously, you don't see them on the front lines. They're not going to be answering AMAs for people to understand this. So you gotta remember there's a lot of things going on in the background. So yeah, I do hope you know, this year maybe we stabilize and we can start looking for, you know, year 4 and start building off of it because I feel like we ended this season on such a high note, with even viewership peaking the way it did, tournaments with lands having such a great reception with the community. So I do hope that we keep building off of that, and to build off of that, we definitely have to have tournaments sooner in the year, and we cannot be waiting 4.5 months to have meaningful matches in Call of Duty because preseason matches aren't it, right? There needs to be a kickoff tournament with all the teams there, and having a good format right off the rip to bring in those fans that are playing the game right away because viewership, everything starts tumbling. Like streaming hours, like streaming viewers for the whole community, not just Call of Duty, the whole Twitch community, YouTube, it all dives in the summer, right? It all takes cuts
Yeah.
because there's so much stuff going on. You have sports, you have everyone just wants to be outdoors. So you have to build your community in the winter. You have to build your viewer base in the winter for it to be good at the end. And yeah, they definitely know this. They know everything. They're listening they listen more than people honestly give them credit for. But it's just reacting and planning out the next 2-3 years. So they'll get there. They'll get there. I have
Agrees.
more I have more I have more hope now than I did in the past, just because I saw how well fans and tournaments did this past year.
Yeah, that's good to hear. I completely agree, especially that stage 5 major. Champs was packed on the Sunday. We have been cracking on for quite some time. EasyMac, final question you want to pick out that we can discuss before we close the show?
Does anyone have any? Let me see here. Does anyone have any good questions?
There's a few from
Should
further
players
up, kind of roster stuff, but not all roster stuff.
should players have access to the game? I'll switchy, so I'll just do yours real quick. Should players have access to the game earlier so they have an idea of what's going on? Um, I don't know really if that's like obtainable for players because you don't really know who's going to be a pro player at the beginning of the year. You don't really know who's going to be on a pro roster until like like the end of September, October. So it'd be hard to plan that out. But I do think challengers players had the rough end of the stick because we waited so long to have a professional event. So the challengers players were kind of left on their own to play on these like rinky dink rule sets that haven't been really one updated and two like tested in matches. So I feel like if we have a professional event sooner, then the challengers scene is in a better position, and it really helps everyone in between. So that's just something that they just have to work on. So yeah, I
I
guess
think that's about right.
yeah, and I guess I'll just say
Fantastic
one
stuff.
thing too.
Go on.
I hope to God CTF is not. I see people
Yeah,
keep asking
yeah, I see
CTF.
people asking that.
Bro, people have rose tinted glasses for that. When's the last time we've had a good CTF? Go back and watch. Go back, yeah, like jetpacks. AW,
Yeah.
shout out Switchy in the call. And that had jetpacks to make it more like. When's the last boots on the ground game that you watched the CTF and it like consistently and said, "This is great. This is what I want to watch for the
It
next
wasn't
15
even
minutes."
like there were some great CTF maps in COD history that ring a
Yeah.
bell, but even in World War II, the last time it happened, how many great CTF maps can you remember? Because that's the thing with CTF. The vast majority of the time, it's boring and awful, and then there's a 10% of the time where it's entertaining, and like a 1% of the time where it's incredible. But I think you get that more often with other game modes,
Oh,
personally.
like
Um,
it's the spawn system of maps. Like if
it's
you're
so
spawning
tough
on
to
your
make it
flag,
work.
yeah, like people don't understand. Like in World War II, when you died in CTF, you spawned on your flag, right? You don't even have to make a decision
Yeah.
because like the part of
Oh, you're
the
there.
hardest part of
Here's my
CTF
flag.
is spawning off the flag and doing should I overextend, should I OE, or go back to my flag. We haven't had a game where you even had to make that decision making
That's why
process.
standoff CTF is the GOAT
Yeah,
CTF map.
yeah, because you need to
You either
have
spawns
yeah,
by green, or you spawn in playgrounds, or you spawn like back alley, and you had to make the call. Like that was the classic situation. You'd spawn by green. It's like, do I wrap back and like try and save my flag, or do I hit back alley and
yeah.
go for a pull? Like that was the ultimate. But that's
We
because
haven't
that
had
map's kind
that in a
of boxed,
minute.
and like the flags are at the corners, so you can kind of spawn like here and here. Whereas a lot of the maps is like a rectangle, flag is here and here, so the only place you can spawn is right behind it, or maybe over here. And even then, it doesn't give you a choice because you can't grab back at that point. You just have to leg it. So the map has to be very well designed
Yeah.
to make CTF work. And in Black Ops 2, they just nailed it. And jetpacks were kind of chaotic, so it could be fun.
Yeah.
But
And we just haven't we're not having jetpacks next year, so the jetpack CTF, like I really think it was only fun because of the jetpacks made it so like crazy. But in a boots on the ground game, we cannot have domination, we cannot have CTF and have that third mode be watchable. We have to either find a good way to have control consistently be fun to watch, or we obviously can't have uplink, but we got to have something. Whether you have uplink with just throws or something, because they did have in World War II they had gridiron, and I
Mm,
actually thought Gridiron was kind of fun. They did vote on it at the time. I think people say, and it was like almost Gridiron almost passed. So
Yeah.
like something. Whether we try out Sabo again, yeah, Benji, I love Sabo.
yeah.
Whether we
I bet it was
try
a cool game mode.
Gridiron, like you gotta find something that's fun because that third game mode
Domination,
is.
baby. Let's get it. Modern Warfare V2, come on.
But
Oh my god.
yeah, because
Such a risky,
such a
such a
rescue,
rescue
bro.
modern game. Man.
Oh
Do you
man.
remember when Ghost came out and it
Oh,
didn't have search and destroy, and they were like, "We don't care about search and destroy. Such a rescue is the new S&D." Like, if you guys haven't played it,
Jesus.
it's when you die, you drop a dog tag like kill confirmed, and if your teammate picks it up, you respawn. Like such a risky man. So like, it took them
Jeez.
like 2 weeks to add S&D to Ghost,
They really
even
thought
though that
search and
was like
rescue was gonna be it.
they really thought that was it, but it turned out to be one of the best SD games of all
Yeah.
time, if not the best.
But
So kind of
bro,
funny how that worked out.
people undervalue that third game mode. That's how you keep fans for the entire series, right? You don't want
Yeah,
people just turning off the
it's got to be
stream
good,
midway
man.
through. And in grand finals, there is two. So you need a third game mode that one is entertaining and two still has a. I like it to have more thinking, like a higher thinking process than hardpoint, but also be more fast paced than S&D. So you need to have that
Yeah,
middle ground. So it's really hard to get. It's really hard to get.
Control does it decently well, does it well enough. But I wouldn't be surprised
Yeah.
if Sledgehammer throw a spanner in the works. I mean, they had like that war game mode, right? Like kind of like
Yeah.
domination, but you push up the map. That's kind of cool.
I
Even though
liked
it could
war.
get kind of boring because it's like I don't
Yeah,
know,
you
like
could
your
just go
tug
back
of
and
war
forth, stay
type,
on the edge.
back and forth, back and forth. I guess, but probably a bit dull. I think you could get some really boring games with that, to be honest.
I will
You'd
add
probably be
on,
just praying they capture the final point to make it end.
yeah, I will add on, like no matter what game mode we have, having good streaks makes anything like better, right? It
That's
makes it
true.
makes game modes work a lot better too. So if we have good streaks, then who knows? Like CTF might be fun to play, but yeah, there's a bunch of potential. So that like the fun part of the year is like that first month when everyone's trying out different modes and you have like the crazy amounts of S&D tournaments and stuff. So like my favorite month of the year is usually November. So
Mm,
uh I cannot wait for that.
it'll be fun for sure. I think it's probably about time we wrap this up. This may be the longest show that we've done. Um, it's at least close, which is pretty incredible. We recap champs, we did the Rostermania stuff, we answered a lot of questions. We will certainly be back next week. So there's lots to discuss. Vanguard, still a lot of talk about that right now. About next week, guys. So thanks to all those watching on Twitch. We will obviously also available on the other platforms after the fact. We've got Spotify, we've got Apple Podcasts. Just phenomenal stuff. Congrats, Austin, once again. Any final words before we sign off for the episode?
Just thank you for everyone that supported us. It's been like 9 months of hard practice and preparation and everything for the team. So seeing it all pay off for them was just amazing and it made me so happy just for them. Um, Shout out, Paul, Eric, Chris, RJ, Tupac, John, like everyone on the staff. They did an amazing job to help the players get where they are today. Yeah, Julia, for helping me like stay sane the last 2 years of online Call of Duty because it's harder to watch 10 hours of Call of Duty every single day for 2 years than you think. You start losing your mind after a minute. So just everyone that's really helped us get to where we are today. Just know like we appreciate and we know everyone there is out there. So yeah, I mean it was a hard long season, but at the end of the day we can do the double phase ups and I'm already excited to
Go
get to
back to
next
back,
season.
baby.
I
First
am.
org to do it back to back could be.
Yeah. So I'm gonna
So,
spend some nice vacation with Yulia and get ready for the beta and next thing you know we're watching S&D tournaments all night long. So I am I'm fucking ready.
Fantastic. All right, well, there we go.
Yeah.
Lion card making streams. I'll talk to him about that, see if we can get that to happen. But yeah, thanks all for watching. It's been absolutely fantastic. Take care of yourselves, and well, we will see you next time.